Artistic talent is something you're born with. Really? I used to believe that too until I realized I was wrong. Yeah, why do the pencils break all the time? Can we please invent an unbreakable pencil already? Yeah, think about all those precious hours of our precious lives that are disappearing into this maintenance work that nobody sees. And yeah, where's the audience? Audience sees the painting or the drawing and then they go, wow, you're so talented. Yeah, totally. Thank you. That's my magic talent. And I did not just spend 10 minutes sharpening this pencil and it would break and I would resharpen it. And I was not cleaning those brushes. And forget those 10 years of art school and forget those 30 years of daily painting and drawing and exercising and practicing, Forget all of that. No. It's not talent. And you know what? Actually, I don't like this word talent because most of the time when people say talent, it means years of that maintenance work that is not even fun. Yeah, so I'll be doing my maintenance work. I will be sharpening my pencils and cleaning my soft pastels. Yeah, actually, I was going to tell you a story and you'll love this one. It's a story about how someone recently called me an ancient, elitist, classical snob. How do you like that title? It's pretty cool, right? I sound like a villain from an art movie. But you know what? This insult kind of made me think about talent a lot. Like a lot. So here's the story. So I was with this group of people, all artists, and we were talking about art, of course. What else can we be talking about? And there was this one guy who would go on and on bragging about how many paintings he sells a year. He makes 100 paintings a year, and he sells them all the same year. And so he would brag nonstop, and I'm like, come on, this is not a painting career. This is creative printing to me. So I jumped into the conversation. That was my mistake. Stupid me. And I told him, listen, there's actually a difference between just being creative and being an artist. And what you do are decorations, which is not bad. We all like decorations. I have decorations in my house too. And making beautiful things is a beautiful thing, But you know what? My bike tires are beautiful, but it doesn't make them art. So, and there was his friend, a younger guy, and he turns to me and he says, you are just an ancient, elitist, classical snob. Ouch. Wow, what am I supposed to respond to this? How do you respond when you hear something like that? But yeah, to be fair to him, I am incredibly blunt. And if you ask my honest opinion, I'll tell you what I think. No filters. And to some people, it might sound rude or arrogant, whatever, but it still hurt. And after that conversation, I could not stop thinking about it. I'm like, what bothers me so much in this conversation? And then I realized it was not the insult, not the wording, not that I was called a snob. Well, I've been called worse, honestly. And eventually I realized that it's not what he did, not what he said, but the meaning of what he said. Yes, it is not what he did. It's exactly what the word talent does. It takes decades of work, and then this word talent make it sound like it's luck. But let me rewind a bit. A couple months before that, I was at a book club. And yes, I go to a book club here in Amsterdam. My life is boring. No, I'm just kidding. Yeah, so it was fun. I should go back there sometime. And we were reading this book, The Artist's Way by Julia Cameron. And she talks about art a lot. And she uses this word creativity. And when she says creativity, she means artistic skills. And I was the only one artist at this book club because everyone was creative with an art block. So this girl, a beautiful soul, she turns to me and she asks, is there actually a difference between being creative and being an artist? Here you go. You know me, you ask me a question, I tell you what I think. And I said, yes, we're all creative, and creativity is something that everybody has, according to me, again. Because look at this kid, a 3-year-old. If you give him a crayon, they would start decorating walls right away. They don't need an art school for that, right? But artists, this word has, a deeper meaning, more weight to me, and also the commitment. And then she goes, so artists are born like this, right? They have something in them. And I'm like, why do they keep asking me questions, Yes, I did not know what to answer because I did not have the answer. But this made me think about talent again, and I started digging because I wanted to understand if we're talking about talent, what is it actually? What does it, not what it means, but what is it physically, biologically, structurally, I wanted to understand it. So I went to the science and I'm not a scientist, and I'm very far from math and biology and all of that. Thank God I have my AI friend who explained it to me very good, and now I believe I do understand what talent is. I will even give you a recipe how to become talented. Don't tell anyone though. You know what? The interesting thing is that these two situations, this beautiful soul and this mean guy, they have something in common because they're kind of like two sides of the same coin, both of them assuming that talent is something we're born with. And that is kind of wrong. Because if talent is something we're born with, then all those years of practice, work, education, training, drawing daily, exercising, they all disappear. They don't matter. Because you have the talent. And you know what? I do get it why we like this word so much. Look at the galleries. It's much easier and more benefit for them to sell an artwork by a talented genius than just a mediocre painting, right? And for the collectors, it's also, oh, it's so cool. I have a painting of this 25 years old, and she's so incredibly talented. Yeah, okay. Forget all those 15 years she studied and she trained and she worked, because all those years are in this painting and you don't see them, So I went to biology. I got all that information and I read a lot actually, and my brain went like this. But here's what I found out. And I like comparing things to food or languages. So today it's food. Think about we're about to start cooking a soup. And we have our ingredients, many, and we put carrots, potatoes, onions, everything. And we cook that soup. And when it's ready, we pour it into 100 bowls. Yeah, and it just happened that in my bowl, those onion, potato, and carrots are just a tiny bit bigger than in yours. Does it mean that my soup is better? No. Does it mean that my soup tastes better? No. The only thing it means, I don't have to go fishing around for those ingredients as much, And this is what people call talent. Just a tiny head start, not a different brain, not magic. And if you listen to people talking about talent, it's like they're talking about a software installed in our brains, just slightly bigger pieces of a few ingredients that everybody already has. And if you continue cooking that soup for the next 10 years, do you think people will notice who started with bigger ingredients? No. And after those 10 years, nobody's even asking how big the carrot was in an original bowl, So now those carrot, onion, potato, they have actually real names, scientific names, those elements in our brains. And I have my names. Mine are much more fun. My names mean pretty much the same, and they're easier to remember, and they're easier to write on a post-it, So would you like to know them? Well, I bet you would. So here they are. Measure tape, attention, and smart hand. So measure tape, it's your ability to judge size and proportion. Totally trainable. Number 2 is attention, also known as close attention. It's the ability to look. Do you remember that video where I was talking about this lost skill of artists? Looking, seeing, noticing. That's exactly it. Totally trainable. So number 3 is smart hand. It's the muscle memory. Thousands of meaningless repetitions daily, 100% trainable. So basically just those 3 tiny abilities that just happen to develop in some brains just a bit earlier. They're totally trainable. Totally. But here is the fascinating part. I like it very much. None of those abilities have to do with art. None of those abilities have to do with the beauty. Come on. Really? Because what is it? Measuring, attention, and muscle memory. And you don't even have to become an artist with those and go and do amazing things in other professions. Architect, surgeon, watchmaker, investigative journalist, policeman. And those little things, they do not guarantee anything. They do not guarantee that you will become a great artist. They do not define your life. You define your life, your choices, and the circumstances you're in. So if talent is just this combination of trainable abilities, then it means that everybody can get them. How cool is that? But here's another question. If you get them, can you lose them? And I think the lives of 2 painters answer this question beautifully. John Everett Millett, when he was a kid, he was called child prodigy. When he was 11, he entered the Royal Academy of Arts, and he created beautiful masterpieces when he was a young guy. And, Ophelia is one of them. Oh yeah, and he was also the co-founder of the Pre-Raphaelite Brotherhood. But what happened to him later in life? Life happened. He got married, got a bunch of kids. He had to feed them. He had to pay the bills. So he made a choice. He left this beautiful, grand art, and he went into the commercial portraiture, which is not bad. That's his choice. It's also a beautiful thing, right? He got rich, but he did not become famous. We don't know him. If it weren't for his Amelia, I wouldn't have known his name, But the thing is, did he lose his skills? No. Did he lose his talent? No. His life simply pulled him in a different direction, and honestly, that's totally fine. Success isn't measured by whether people remember your name 150 years later. And by the way, Millet was painting for money. He was a commercial portrait artist, and this is exactly what that guy in the beginning of this video is doing, creating those decorations. The only difference is Millet wasn't bragging. He was feeding the family. But sometimes art pays the bills, and sometimes bills define your art. And there is Vincent van Gogh. Was the complete opposite. He was not a child prodigy. They didn't call him talented. He was not studying at the Royal Academy of Arts. And you know what? He started painting and drawing a bit late in life for an artist back then. But when he started, he spends 10 years just exercising. And when he paints his first painting, the whole world is crazy about it. So he started late, but within those 10 years, he changed art history. How cool is that? And these two stories of these two painters, they kind of show me that talent does not really matter that much. One started miles ahead and the other started very late, but neither story was decided by the talent alone. So did the talent matter? Not really. The choices mattered and the circumstances mattered. And the talent was just, I think it was just an opening chapter in a book. And I thought of something, I think it's kind of interesting that there are people who say, wow, you're so talented. And other people would say, wow, you're so talented. One says it as a compliment and the other says it as an accusation, but both believe the same thing. Both believe that there is some kind of magical superpower. But I don't think that there is this magical superpower. I think we're really looking at this soup with different ingredients, and we all have those ingredients. And it just happened that my carrot is a bit bigger. So what? Yeah, it didn't sound right? No, but you get my point. Yeah, and with this carrot that is just a tiny bit bigger than yours, I started cooking my soup just a bit earlier, and I cooked it for 40 years. And that's the part people usually forget, because it's not the destiny, it's not God picking favorites, it's just a tiny little head start, and it's not the same as coming to the finish line. Which means talent is not magical. It's practice, repetition, which means you can also build it. Actually, I do know how to do this. I'll give you my recipe. So, Dimitri's Talent Soup. I know it's a horrible name, but it's a good recipe, actually. Ingredient number 1, measure tape. Stop guessing, start measuring. Ingredient number 2, attention. Put your phone away, turn off the music, no artificial noise, just you, and pick one object, you and this object, and you start looking at it for 20 minutes daily until you start noticing things. Ingredient number 3, repetition, 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 repetition. Thousands of meaningless, repetitive things until your hand actually stops asking your brain for permission to do things. Well, and then you cook it. For how long? Well, maybe for a few years, maybe a bit longer. I know, that's the part nobody likes. But you know what? You will notice when it's ready. How? Well, people will start telling you, I'm sorry, I don't know, I got a bit emotional. People will start telling you, wow, you're so talented. People will tell you, wow, you're so talented. You will say thank you, and then you will look at me, and you and I, we will know that it's not talent at all. Yeah, so it's not talent. And here's the part I really like. It doesn't matter when you start cooking the soup. Your brain doesn't ask for ID before it starts learning something. Yeah, but before you start cooking, let me ask you a question. Are you willing to stir for that long? Because, all those artists you admire and you think, oh, I wish I was like them, they do not have that magic ingredient in them. They just, started cooking their soup a bit ahead of you. Yeah, and do yourself a favor. Do not worry about that talent. Just, get your pencil and get your brush and keep stirring that soup. My name is Dimitri Ross. I'm a figurative artist in Amsterdam, and I hope to see you in the next one. Ciao, ciao. You have one of the biggest brains of all dog breeds. But it does make you better, it makes you different, and it makes it just a bit easier for you to be so sweet and so horribly annoying.